Hello and welcome to the Voice Den session number 9. Happy New Year. Well, we're already a couple weeks into January, but it's the first time we're doing this year. So Happy New Year. It's great to see so many of you back here in the Voice Den for another fun evening. I would love to hear where you are from. And already we've got some people in the chat there. We've got Luder from California. Welcome. From New York, we have Larry. Let's hear where everybody is from. And as we like to do on the Voice Den, if you're drinking something interesting, let us know, because it's all about having some snacks and some beverages here while we have some fun. We have a tremendous show for you today, and I'm so excited to introduce to you the Voicefluencers. But before we get to that, I need to make a couple of quick announcements here. And the first one is I need to thank our sponsors, because this is really exciting. For 2021, we have not one, but 2 headliner sponsors of the Voice Den for the entire year, 2021. And so first of all, I want to, excuse me, I'm already losing my voice. That's not a good sign. I want to thank Amazon, I hope all your devices are muted, Alexa, for their continued support. They've been a supporter of the Voice Den last year, and they are going to be supporting the Voice Den for the entire year. So thank you so much to Amazon. And on that note, I would like to put a link in the chat here. I want you to check this out, because Amazon has an event tomorrow all about adding smart home voice functionality to your devices. So join the Alexa Tech Talks, adding smart home controls with AVS. It's being held tomorrow at 9 a.m. So make sure that you click on that link and check them out. So thank you to Amazon. As well, this year, Google Assistant is a headliner sponsor as well for the entire year. So excited to welcome Google as well as a partner of the Voice Den. And on that note, I also want to share this link with you. And Google, in combination with MoDev, they are putting on Voice Talks, and that is tomorrow at 11 a.m. Oh, my times that I said were Pacific. So the Amazon one is 9 a.m. Pacific, and then Voice Talks at 11 a.m. Pacific. Clear your calendars for tomorrow, because tomorrow is going to be a big voice event as well. So thank you to the sponsors. As well, I want to give a shout out to our partners, Attention Live, who helped with the cards, and we'll be talking more about that, Audio Brain, who does all the sonic branding, and Voice Lunch, who are wonderful partners. All right, let's get to you. Let's get to the audience. I have a poll for you. Look down on the bottom of your screen, and you are going to see the first poll come up. And I want to know, what is your Voice Den status? Are you a rookie, i.e., is this your first time in the den? Or are you a veteran? You've been here, done this, old hat. You are going to help all the newbies learn about the way it works in the Voice Den. So let's have a look here. And so far, we got some veterans, 11-3, 14-3. Come on, there's got to be more rookies. Yeah, rookies are catching up. All right, awesome. I'm going to keep an eye on that. Particularly if you are a new person here, I want to give you a really warm welcome. And again, particularly if you're a new person, make sure you say hi in the chat, introduce yourself, where you are from, because I would love to see Debbie, rookie, Lee, new, wonderful. Thank you for joining us. It's so wonderful to see new faces all the time. Awesome. The next thing I want to do, we're gonna bring up one more poll, and then we're going to get to the introductions, and that's this. What mobile device do you use, iOS or Android? And this has something to do with a little bit of an announcement that we're going to be doing a little bit later on. So I'll get back to that in just a moment. While you are doing that, let's talk about the Voicefluencers. So I'm really excited about this lineup. Today, we'll start off with, I skipped over there. Let's start off with Leslie Garcia-Amaya. She is known as the Partner Accelerator, and she is the Global Product Partnerships Lead for Google. So she works on Google Assistant, and she is responsible for the global go-to-market strategy for the recipes and finance verticals, partnering with global brands such as All Recipes, Food Network, American Express, and Mint. And prior to that role, she led identity partnerships at Google. She's a board member of Women in Voice, and she is helping to champion women in voice on a path to 10,000 members by 2025. Love that. So thank you for being here, Leslie, and we'll get you up on screen in just a moment here to say hi. Shyamala Prayaga, otherwise known as the Duchess of Voice. She is the product owner for conversational AI at Ford and the founder of the Digital Assistant Academy. She has done work in mobile, web, desktop, and voice-based interfaces. At Ford, she is the product owner for the Autonomous Digital Assistant, and she leads the company-wide Ford's Autonomous Digital Assistant innovation for voice and chatbots. So welcome, welcome, welcome. It is a pleasure to have you part of the team here. Katherine Prescott, the Brewer. You probably know her as the founder and editor of Voice Brew, an incredible newsletter that talks about how you can get the most out of your smart assistants. She's committed to this. This is her mission, to help people get more out of their smart speakers. And prior to launching Voice Brew, she was the senior vice president and head of corporate strategy at a global alternative investment firm where she spent 8 years. Wonderful to have you here, Katherine. John Stine, Standards Man, what a fitting name. He is the executive director for the Open Voice Network. He grew up in the US Midwest and now is in Portland, Oregon. In between, he's had stints in retailing, technology, global responsibilities, with constant, and I like this, off-bruising lessons about what creates value and why, with a little bit of writing and university teaching here and there. And it's a pleasure to have you here as well, John. And finally, last but not least, we have Karol, Stryja. And you probably know him from Voice Lunch. He is the chief commercial officer of Utter One. He's a technologist at heart. He founded the podcasting company as he loves to talk with people. He co-founded Utter One, and he believes that talking with AI is the future. And that makes two of us, Karol. He also runs Voice Lunch, as I mentioned, as he believes community is the main driver for new technologies. So, having said that, I want to bring up our Voicefluencers so they can say hi, and then we are going to get right on with the show. So here's where a little bit of juggling is required. I need to find our special guests here, and I'm gonna ask them all to come up on stage. And as they come up, here we go. Here's Katherine.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, Katherine. Let me bring up the other voicefluencers as well. And one more to call up here. And then I think everybody should be joining us on stage. Awesome. Okay, great. Well, everyone's coming up. Katherine, we've got your first there, sort of. You came up on the screen first. So Katherine, welcome. It's great to have you here. I want to just talk about the fun little fact that you gave us about you. And that's you worked in
what it is.
Oh, I'll give you a clue.
Okay.
You lived somewhere off seas working in microfinance. What was that about?
I lived in Hyderabad, summer of 2007, working for a microfinance bank called Basics. I traveled all over India, meeting with customers of Basics. And then I wrote my senior thesis on risk and in microfinance.
Very fascinating. So off in India for a while. Pretty interesting. Not a typical place.
It was amazing.
Because you were born in, where were you born?
New York City.
New York City.
A little bit different.
Yeah, amazing. Well, it's great to have you here, Katherine. Thank you for joining us. John, you have a very interesting fact about you as well. Something about a certain sport. What's the deal with that?
I'm trying to remember what that special thing was.
Teri. NBA, something about the NBA.
Once upon a time was a statistician for the NBA or for an NBA team. Way back when they had short shorts. Yeah.
Very interesting. Statistician. That's very cool. I like that. And for some reason, you seem to have the persona of a person who would do a fantastic job at that. Very, very meticulous and very, how do I put this? You pay attention to detail. So I think that suits you very well. So
thank you.
There you go. Leslie, good to have you here. The last time we were on screen together was one of the voice talks.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
It's great to be here. Thanks, Teri.
Wonderful to have you. So I'm just looking at my cheat sheet here. You, like many other people, you got a puppy recently.
We did. Yeah, we got a COVID pup, our second pup, actually. We moved to a house and got a second pup in the same year, and we have a nice big yard, so why not add some more furry friends to the mix?
What kind of dog is it?
He's a Terrier Chihuahua mix. We're Chihuahua fans.
Okay, awesome, awesome, love it. We have a dog. I've never been a dog person, but the last year and a half we got a dog, and now I love dogs. So appreciate that. Awesome, Shyamala, welcome. So great to have you here.
Thank you so much, Teri. Looking forward to this episode.
And so you have an interesting fact here as well, because I'm not familiar with the name Shyamala before meeting you. So tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, so it's interesting. It's a unisex name in India. So you would find a lot of, men sharing the same name. So interesting thing is every time I say Shyamala, people think, I'm a man before they guess.
Well, you know what? Every time I say my name's Teri, people think I'm a woman. So I can relate to that. So there you go. And so it's great to have you here. Thank you. And Karol, what can you tell us about you? You're a techie. So tell us about your technology favorite microphone. That's what you put for your. Do you remember that?
Favorite microphone is Sennheiser. My favorite microphone is Sennheiser MD441U. This is a super classic microphone that was used by the Beatles. But not techie thing about me is that I generally prefer asking questions rather than answering them. So, Teri, if I can do a quick turnaround here, because you are the anchor here, and you are always asking the questions.
Oh, no.
There are some rumors in the world that you've got some Polish roots.
You are correct. You are absolutely correct. My grandfather, my mother's father, was from Poland. So yeah, I am, I guess, at least a quarter Polish. So there we go, Karol. We have that in common. Although I'm only a quarter.
So,
but still.
Teri, I'm starting to call you our brothers in voice.
And Katherine just said she's got some Polish roots as well.
Got also, I've got also one proposal, because Teri is so generous and giving us all these nicknames, and I've got the offer for the audience. Let's get the nickname for Teri today.
Oh my goodness, Karol. All right, well, they can brainstorm, and I'll keep my eyes open in the chat for different nicknames. But I appreciate that. It's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you. Now,
it's great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, all of you, for being here. All right, here's how it works now. Let's get on to the actual show. Down, and I see the veterans here know what's going on. Under the Ask a Question text at the bottom there, people are starting to type in their questions. And whether or not you have a question, I encourage you to ask one if you do, obviously, and we're going to invite you up here on screen with some of these voice influencers. But please vote on your favorite questions as well, because that way we know which questions we want to prioritize and get you up on screen. So the first person I want to invite on screen is going to be Clint. Clint has a question specifically for Karol, building community. Okay, and I think for this, I'm going to keep Katherine up on stage, because she's done an excellent job of building community as well. So I'm going to say goodbye to the other three of you for a bit, and we'll have you back up shortly. All right? All right. Awesome. Sure. So let's do this. Let me invite Clint up on screen. Do a little bit of juggling here, and Clint should be up in just a moment. And for those of you that are new here, what we do here on the Voice Den is we put up a timer. And so we at 5 minutes for the question, for the conversation, and then we boot people off. So we keep people on track this way. So here comes Clint.
Hey.
There he is. Hey, Clint, how's it going?
Hey, guys, great.
Great.
Good to see you again today, Teri. This is our second time hanging out today, Teri.
That's right. It's our second time hanging out. Good to see you again, Clint.
You as well.
I'm going to throw a timer up here, but why don't you give a little introduction and throw the question over, and we'll get 5 minutes for the discussion. So fire away.
Yeah, for sure. Karol, as you know, I'm a member of the Voice Lunch community, and I'm just completely blown away by what you and Mikhail have accomplished over the last year, less than a year, I suppose. And, it's went from this small community of a few of us to being this worldwide phenomenon at this point. As a voice app developer and a voice gaming developer, I'm always thinking about community and how to build that for my own work. I'm in the process of launching a new game that it has a leaderboard and certain aspects to it that I think could really, help to have a community aspect. So I'm just curious from your perspective, what's working, what's not working, what's some advice, some tips?
Hey, Clint, first of all, thank you for your super kind words. You are, in fact, one of the oldest members of the Voice Launch community, so thank you very much for that. Also, keeping fingers crossed for all your ventures. Hey, if you are asking me what really works, also speaking to the Voice Launch, I think all the old-fashioned things works very, very well. If you are starting out with the game, pay attention to the first users, reach out to as many as possible, try to get people involved and give you feedback. And I think whether it's promoting a game or building a community or anything like this, it's all about the relationships that are happening in the real life, but sometimes with the use of the technical things like LinkedIn, Twitter, anything else. I would say so, Clint.
Yeah, I mean, just to jump in, when you're getting something off the ground, so just to give you a little bit of background, I started Voice Brew 2 years ago with, 3 people on my list, my parents and my husband, and I guess myself, which doesn't really count. And today we're sending to, tens of thousands of people, and every day, anywhere from 10,000 to 13,000 people are opening and reading the newsletter. But the strategies that I used to scale to get my first 500 people onto the list were really different. So I think when you're first getting started, it's all about, it's like talking to people that you're trying to bring on. So I spent lots of time on Reddit, in the Amazon Echo subreddit, in the Alexa subreddit. I was answering people's questions. I was writing posts. I was looking at what people are asking, writing posts, and then posting those posts to answer the questions, just trying to drum up enthusiasm. And it was also a great way for me to understand what people cared about. And I think Reddit, just to give you a really specific, actionable place where you could kind of find, users, is a great place to find early users. And then I think that of course there's Facebook, and then you can have strategies like SEO, and there are other ways that you can bring people into the fold. But I think that Reddit is super helpful to get something off the ground.
That's
Wonderful.
Great. Thank you both very much.
All right. We even beat the buzzer on that one. All right. Awesome. Thanks so much for the question. Really appreciate that. Thanks for coming on. Good to see you again.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Good luck.
All right. So let's dive back into the question bank here, and let's move right along. So this is an interesting one from Roger. Roger, I'm going to bring you up here. And it's, what's the most controversial prediction for voice? I'd love to get Shyamala and John, your perspectives on this. I'm going to bring you two up, and then we will see the two of you here on screen in just a little bit again. All right. Let me bring up the appropriate people here. So there's Roger. Welcome.
Hey.
Yeah.
Good to see you. So I wanted to spice things up and ask for people's controversial prediction for voice in 2021. So what's something that's controversial?
Who wants to take that first?
That's like, Roger, that's like grabbing a hold of a grenade here. So
I thought you two would be perfect for answering this. Shyamala, you want to start?
That's very.
Yeah, definitely. So for me, the most controversial thing is Amazon is, is very successful with its own device, and it has opened up the tech stack, right? So now the question would be, with all the tech stack and, giving the ability to the companies to have its own voice assistant or custom voice assistant, where do we stand? Because on one side, Amazon has been pushing a lot, saying people want voice assistant in the car, which is their favorite, and there is like this whole JD Power data which shows like people want Alexa in the car because they've been using it in the home and all of those, and now they have opened up the tech stack and saying, hey, by the way, you can create your own custom voice assistants. So now this is really interesting where this space moves on, like what is users expectation with this, and where will we land with all of this. So yeah, that's what I would say.
I would jump in and just echo what Shyamala said, and I'm not trying to be a coward here, but it's, I think, the prediction and the expectation for independent voice assistants. You have two dominant, brilliant companies bringing, and Amazon as an example, has just brought out a number of things that are going to be very enticing to enterprise users. Yet at the same time, there are all the issues of data ownership, which is huge on an enterprise side, as well as just in the sense owning your own identity. And so I think, you listen to Brett, you listen to a lot of smart people, and we all think the age of independent enterprise voice assistants is on the horizon, over the horizon, kind of out there. I think that is, perhaps to your great question, Roger, that's my sense of that's the controversial or the big question in front of voice here in 2021.
So do you think there's going to be, it is dominated by Alexa and Google today. Further down, 5 years down the road, is they still going to dominate? Or are we going to have hundreds and thousands of voice assistants that are all independent and they'll just be one of those players?
You want me to go first, Shyamala, or you want to take that one?
No, you can go first, John. I have my opinions, a lot of them.
Roger, I think one of the things that we don't often think about in the voice community is the importance of the user community and what's important to the users. In a sense, Google and Amazon are the arms merchants of voice. But they're going to be used. The tools of voice will ultimately create the most value in the hands of enterprises, large, small, profit, nonprofit. And it's in the interests of the enterprisers, the users, to have their own independent voice, to control that voice, to control their data. It's just the way it is. And in talking to dozens, if not hundreds of enterprises through the work I'm doing, that's the constant theme. Yeah, it makes sense. Love this voice thing, but I need to control my brand. I need to control my voice. I need to control my data. Shyamala, what do you think?
Yeah, I totally echo what John is saying. And adding to that, what we'll start seeing is many more voice assistants now, because initially people were wanting this kind of feature, but they were at the mercy of what technology is available to them, and that is why they were creating Google Actions or Amazon Skills, right? And now the tech stack is completely open for them, which means then they just have to use the Acer NLP and TTS engines, the different engines, but they can create their own custom voice assistant with their custom branding, with their custom wake up word, or however they want. And anyone would do that, because look at what BBC did. They were just a skill with Amazon, and soon they realized, like, hey, this is not the direction we want to go. And to John's point, like, we want to have our own branding, because that is where the big market is, and the brand loyalty and trust would be. And from there on, obviously, we know what BBC has done. It has been doing tremendous work in the voice space and evolving. So that's where we will start seeing a lot more companies planning to launch their own assistant. Now the thing would be, do we want to coexist, or do we want to just compete in this space?
Roger, great question. Down to the mark here.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Good to see you, my friend.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Roger. Good to see you. Great question.
Good to see you.
That's a little different question, and it's fun. It's fun to get the different questions up here. So thanks so much, Roger. Awesome. All right. So next question. Looks like this one is for Leslie, and I'm going to keep you up here, Shyamala. John, I'm going to say bye to you for a few minutes here, and let's bring up. It was Alan that asked this question, so let's do that, and let me as well bring up Leslie. So let's do that here. Okay. Leslie, I'm just sending you that invite to come on up. Okay. And then, hello, Alan. How are you?
I'm doing well, Teri. How are you doing?
I am doing great. Good to see you. Welcome back to the show. So let's, do you want me to read out your question, or you can go ahead and ask your question? How's that? And we'll just fire away here. All right, go for it.
Forgotten. So I'm kind of curious, what are the trade-offs in making the voice assistants that are targeted at specific verticals versus more open access? Am I reading the right question?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Leslie, do you want to, oh, sorry, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, Alan.
Kind of the thinking there is, as you kind of just talked about, you've got a lot of the brands who are thinking about their own voice assistants, but they're very narrow, very specific, as opposed to nice general purpose voice assistants which can answer everything. But then we're seeing both Amazon and Google trying to narrow even those down by specific queries and specific things. So what's the right trade-off here?
Yeah.
Leslie?
Hi, Alan. Yeah, you cut out a little bit, so I'm not sure I totally got the follow-up there, but tell me if this is how I'm interpreting your question. I think about, the verticals that I work with being finance and recipes, kind of that space. And, I advise partners on how they should think about meeting their goals with their voice actions. And so there's this opportunity to engage your existing customers. So banks, for example, how do you work towards, engaging a customer more deeply around, what's my account balance, for example, or when's my next payment due, versus the acquiring new customers is sort of a more general approach to building a voice action. Maybe they're not your customer today, but you want them to be. And I think there's kind of discovery challenges with that path. How do you get those potential customers to know that action actually exists? So I don't know if that's where you were headed with your question, but I think they're unique challenges. And I see partners that I work with sort of thinking through, what's the best path to tackle based on their objectives for their action.
I think my question is exactly the opposite of that, and that if you built a generic device with the Google Assistant, for example, and yet you are creating very specific verticals within that, how do we again make the device more general?
So, for example, if you have the Google Assistant device and you've created certain experiences that are rooted in a particular vertical.
Right. The impression is that the assistant keeps adding more and more phrases that are for particular verticals, kind of slighting the general purpose system. How do you make a general purpose system? How do you make a general purpose voice assistant? And what's the trade-off against making specific purpose voice assistants like we see with automobiles, for example?
Yeah, so I can talk a little bit about that from my experience. So the biggest thing is when you're making a general purpose assistant, like for example, the voice in the car, can do a lot of things and is capable of doing, all sorts of things. The biggest thing is the biggest trade-off or the challenge which we see in that kind of environment is knowing what the vehicle is capable of doing. First of all, discoverability is an issue. So how do you tell the user that, hey, these are the different things you can do in the vehicle, because it can do a lot of things for you. It is not dedicated to a specific thing like, hey, I'm your employee assistant chatbot or something like that. So now how do you solve for discoverability if you have 10 different things the voice assistant can do? For example, in the car, we have climate controls. The assistant can change the climate in the car, or it can play music for you, or do navigation, and then also read your emails or schedule meetings. We have all these different use cases which we do, and it becomes really difficult now to tell the user like these are the different things. And we also have the biggest challenge in the vehicle, which is the driver distraction. So when they are driving, we cannot overload them with a lot of information and show all of those things as well. So I think there's a fine balance of identifying the key use cases which we think are, to be displayed on the forefront, to make us the leader, and then have the other as our backup strategy and reprompt strategies.
Great. Anything else to add there from either of you? All right. Alan, thank you so much for coming on again and asking your questions. It's always great to see you.
Thanks again. Take care, everyone.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, and thank you for the answer. Oh, I got to stop the timer here before we get the buzzer. Okay, great. Let's we're going to move on to the next question. And this one, I like this one. This is a fun question. So Leslie, we got to keep you up here because it's about what is the funniest story you can tell about a third-party partner experience gone wrong. So this is from Michael. So I'm going to invite Michael up on screen. I'm going to bring up Karol as well, and I'm sure he's got some stories. So I'll see you, Shyamala, in a little bit. All right, and I'll see you later at some point, Alan. I'm sure we'll see each other again. Take care. And let me pull up. Let's pull up. Where is Karol? There you are. Okay, perfect. Michael Novak, you are a veteran of The Voice, Den. Good to see you again. Can you hear us okay?
Thank you very much.
All right. Well, let's, why don't I start the countdown timer, and I'll let you take it away and ask your question. This is a fun one, so let's have some fun with this one. I'm curious to see the answers on this one.
Yes. So Leslie, big fan of Google, fantastic. However, I also work with strategic partners for companies. What's the funniest story that you're able to tell in public about a third-party partner experience gone wrong?
It's a really good question, and I'm sort of scanning my brain on things I can actually share because, you know, one of the reasons that people get hired to Google is because we can figure out how to solve problems, and there are a lot of them you can imagine when it relates to dealing with partners. The one that I think that I can share, I will leave names out of it, of course, and maybe this is a slight edit to your question. It actually didn't go wrong, but I thought it was going to. So as I said, I look after the recipes experience for Google Assistant partnerships. And we work with celebrity chefs, celebrity cooks at events like CES. And sometimes there's private PR events where we have chefs come on. And so there was one particular celebrity chef that we were working with who is gaining in popularity, and ultimately what we were doing was putting on an event with her where she was going to walk through one of her recipes, like actually make it live using a Google Assistant Smart Display, just to show off the experience, right? Because when you the recipes experience, if you sounds like you're very familiar, but for those that don't know, there's step-by-step guidance, all via voice, hands-free cooking, which is really ideal. I use it all the time. And so in our prep call leading up to this event, I got a little bit worried because she had very few questions on how to navigate the experience. Yet she had said she didn't work with the assistant too much. Like she hadn't really experimented with it much. So I thought, okay, well, let's just see how this goes. But I'm a little worried that she's going to get up there and really kind of like not know how to navigate, because you need to kind of, practice a time or two to be able to say, and this is how it works. But she did beautifully. She really impressed me. She did beautifully. And so luckily it didn't go wrong. But that's a scenario that I think possibly could have. And then just kind of in front of that audience could have just, not landed so well. So
have you had any that haven't? I mean, they look at you and go, yeah, I understand, but why do I need a voice thing? I've got a web. This is, and you have to really show them. They go, oh my gosh. You see that jaw drop when they get it.
Right. I think in the cooking space, it's less of I don't get it, because who doesn't want a hands-free device helping them in the kitchen?
Sure.
In the finance world, I can see that, right? Like there's been questions around privacy come up, right? Well, why am I going to ask my Google Assistant for my account balance in front of my entire family and friends, right? Like, why would I do that? And so, our user research that our team has done extensively to see, is this a use case that people would actually be attracted to? And it is. And finance is actually one of the fastest growing verticals. Yes. Not everyone though, right? You have to be mindful of that communal experience where others can kind of hear what's going on.
Yep.
So yeah, it's a great question. Thanks for asking.
Awesome. Karol, do you have any funny stories? Things that maybe didn't go as planned?
Well, maybe not speaking to the third-party developer applications. I will tell you a story that was from the last week. We've organized the first conference in Poland about the chatbots and the smart speakers. To your information, we don't have Alexa speaking Polish. We've got only Google Assistants available on our smartphones. And speaking to the voice, it's a huge niche, and the awareness is very, very little. And you know what? We're super surprised that it turned out that there were two people who joined our event. One was the youngest and one was the oldest. The youngest had only 13 years old, and the oldest lady was 65 years old. And she admitted she heard me talking about the smart speakers on the radio show the night before. And she told, because she stayed with for the 6 hours straight, also at the after party when we were talking unofficially. And she told us that, hey, she don't know what the smart speaker is, but she heard the story and she loved the technology, and she has got to do something to make it possible that every senior in Poland have this small little device. And that was really fantastic. We're blown away by the old lady.
There you go. Great story. I was a little late with the buzzer there. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. That was a fun question, Michael. So thank you for that one. That is fantastic. And great answers. That was a lot of fun. Okay, amazing. So we are going to move right along here. Let's keep going. And this question is, it's from Mark. It's specifically for Katherine, but I'm going to bring up John as well, because I'm going to sort of add a second part to this question, because I'm curious to ask John this as well. So I will say goodbye to some of you for a little bit, and let's bring up, let's go over here, and I'm going to grab Katherine and John. Okay. And Mark's coming. Okay, and we'll see you in a bit, Karol and Leslie. All right. So while we are waiting for everybody to come on up, okay, we've got, and we're just missing Mark. Oh, re-invite. We'll try that one more time, Mark. And if for some reason we're not able to get you up, I can just ask the question. No, I think it's working now. Okay, great. Okay, perfect. So this is a interesting question. And if I pull up the question, Mark's asking a little bit about your newsletter, Katherine, how you come up with the content and how long it takes. I'll let Mark sort of describe that a little bit more. But I'm curious, John, if you were to have a daily newsletter from the Open Voice Network, what would be your top message? That's kind of how I'm going to throw that question to you when it comes to your turn. All right. So, but Mark, why don't you just introduce yourself, and you can kick things off here with Katherine.
Hi, Mark. I'm Mark. I do things with voice. So, no, just really interested in how you come up with your content. What I thought, it was, I've been doing lots of things with developers, but when I first saw Voice Brew, then I was just blown away with, oh, it's the audience of the same audience that I'm building things for, to help them be better so that they want to use the things that I'm developing. So just interested in how much time that takes and where you come up with your ideas for the newsletter.
Hey, Mark, great to see you, and thanks for the question. So, and I love that you asked this question. So I think a lot of people out there, are certainly others out there who are writing about different use cases for voice for, you know, a consumer audience. I think typically it's more kind of a techie audience, but they're often focused on features, like, oh, this new feature came out, like I'm going to cover this feature. I really I think about things that I find delightful in my day-to-day or problems that I have, and how my voice assistant either does things that I find delightful, like playing Snatch Word, which is amazing, or how it solves problems I have. So just to give you a quick example, so, you know, like I think probably a lot of us during the pandemic maybe haven't been getting the best sleep. So I've been like looking for different ways that maybe I could sleep better. And I came across some research on light temperature, which is the color of your lights. So blue is cool. It's really good for focusing, waking you up. Warm, whereas like blue light, which is kind of cooler white light, whereas warm light, which is sort of on the yellower side of the spectrum, is really good for kind of telling your body like time to like wind down and get ready for going to sleep. And so I thought, okay, that's interesting. Like I'm going to start my day with my smart lights set to a cooler, whiter light. And then as it gets later, I'm going to have a routine that sets them to this warmer light. And it's really nice. So I wrote a newsletter about that, explaining to people how they could update their routines or create routines in order to do that. So that's kind of like case in point, like how I would write a newsletter. So it's funny, like the actual writing, you know, it could take anywhere from like, you know, 1 to kind of 2 hours. They're short, but I try to make them really short so that people read them and can get everything out of them that I want them to get out of them. But sometimes it actually takes longer to write shorter content. But what really takes time is just the experience of like kind of using things and coming up with ideas. And I think my best content is kind of just organic, like in the way I just described. Looking at the clock, I think I just talked for too long, so I'm going to stop.
It's all good. It's all good. That's a great answer, Katherine.
Thank
you. I know it takes a lot to make that content. John, what do you think? If you had a newsletter every day like Katherine's doing, what would be your like number one message?
You know, I'd first probably listen to Heidi Cohen and take her advice that's in chat. And second, Teri, just to make sure I get extra credit points here, I'd mentioned Janice Mandel's name because in doing so, I just got extra points here for being on VoiceDen. But, you know, that aside, enterprise value. You know, there's three major groups that we'd want to talk to. Corporate counsel, the whole issue of privacy, the whole issue of data ownership, the whole issue of ethical use. These critical issues that corporate counsel, they'll say yes or no. We'll talk to marketers because this is a zero-sum game, kids. You know, can we get voice on the marketing list? What's going to come off so voice can go on? What's the value propositions? And then operations, because it's not just consumer contact, it's how do we use voice to cut costs in operations wherever we are? You know, be it media, be it finance, be it retail, be it wherever. We'd be focused on those three things and those three audiences. That's what we'd be talking about. And we'd also be talking about the day-to-day grinding work that we're doing on trying to figure this stuff out. How do we figure out? How do we do the things we're talking about? Interoperability, privacy, you know, a DNS for voice. It's none of that's easy, but we're making great progress. We talk about that too.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Great. Anything else to add there? We got 10 seconds about.
Oh, I'm just like to thank everyone. These three people have impacted positively my my life when it comes to voice. So just wanted to shout out a thank you to everybody. Appreciate it.
Mark, thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. Mark's a real gem in the community too. So everybody should definitely check in with Mark. Wonderful. All right. So moving along, we're going to invite up Andy. John, I'm going to keep you up on stage as well. Katherine, I'm gonna say goodbye to you for a few minutes, and we're going to bring up Karol again. So let's bring up Andy. And Mark, good to see you. We'll see you again at some point. And
hello.
Bring up one more person here. Hi, Andy.
Hello. What did I ask? Wait, I have to look at my question.
And I need to bring up Karol.
Oh, no.
You were asking a little bit about
I see it.
his expectations. Yeah. So, and I think it's a good question as well for John with regards to the Open Voice Network. So I'll let you ask the question, and I think it's good to ask that question about the Voice Launch and the Open Voice Network. So we'll just wait for Karol to come up here. He should be up here. He is. Great. So Andy, I'll start the timer. You can introduce yourself and ask the question. Go for it.
Hi all. I think almost everybody knows me. I'm Andy. I'm a participant in anything voice related these days. You're all my friends during the pandemic. So my question was actually for Karol, but it also applies to John in a little bit in a different way. So Karol, you and Miha have created something amazing, but at what point, like, did you ever think it was going to be so big? And at what point did you realize it was going to go global? And John, the same for you with Voice Network? Like, did you ever think it was going to be as big as it is? Because everybody's talking about it.
Karol,
Go ahead, Karol.
we'll have you go first.
Go ahead, Karol. Yeah.
First of all, thank you for the question, Andy. We are talking with Michael from time to time, and we are laughing that the voice launch succeeded in a kind of way because we didn't plan it at all. So that was just a spark, and we wanted to create a little community of the voice geeks and the voice people. And it turned out that thanks to all of you, the hosts, the voice launchers, the people who join us, it turned to be right now a global movement, because right now we are active in 10 countries, ranging from Brazil, Japan, Israel, you name it, as well as having the topic-specific voice launches like language and linguistics led by Mike and Brewer. So I'm wondering sometimes how this will work out and where we will be in 5 years. Let's see what the future will bring. And we are, on the other hand, the funny story is that we are trying to be, let's say, the cocktail party of the voice industry, while the John Stine with the OVN network is a much, much serious organization.
Well, John, with that lead up, what do you have to say?
I will plead guilty to being a more, perhaps a more serious organization. But Andy, thank you is a very gracious comment. We're young. We're nowhere as large as we want to be. I think we're growing rapidly, but we'd love to be with the size and the energy of Voice Den and Voice Lunch. We look at Dr. Teri, we look at Karol and Mikkel and just say, God, what they do is fantastic. So you're very kind in saying that. We're on the first step of our journey. We've got a number of ways that, a long way to go, but very excited about where this thing will take us and what the promise is.
I will say everybody I know in this community is always talking about your network and is involved with it. So of course I want to get involved in it because everybody I know is involved in it. It's a great thing.
Well, believe me, the door is wide open. And for all of you, let me make this pitch. And Teri, forgive me.
Time is yours. Go.
You can take and join us and talk to us and help us figure out these standards questions. We're taking a look at how do assistants share dialogues? I mean, put on your propeller beanie and come and join us. Join us for an hour. Come and join us on Voice Lunch. We're going to have David Roth from WPP come in and talk about voice and brands. And, here's a world-class marketer taking a look at what do I need? What do I want for voice with world-class brands? We're going to have that on Voice Lunch. Here in a couple weeks, we're going to have an open use case review. Retailers, consultants, technologists. Here's a use case using voice in retail in the new digital store. And it's Shark Tank, 2 hours. Come in, listen in, learn. We're all going to find out an awful lot. There's a place for you in the Open Voice Network. Please join us. We need your help.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
And if I can add one thing, we are quite different in our aims and specifics, but I think it's the most important and fundamental part for discoverability, for the awareness, for building standards, for building communities, is to build relationships also between the communities. So that's why I'm really thankful, Teri, for inviting us as a Voice Lunch community to your show. I'm really thankful, John, for making it happen, that we'll be organizing a common Voice Lunch together with OVN. It's the only way that will work.
And likewise, and all of us, I'm sure, join me and Karol and Teri. Thank you. I mean, this is just so great.
Yeah.
So,
Teri, I should have included you because you created something big too. I just realized you should have been included in the question.
yeah, absolutely.
No, I appreciate that, Andy. But this isn't about me. This is about the guests that we have on the show. And
part of it all. I completely missed the boat on that.
Well, thank you. That's very kind. That's very kind. But I love the question because really, I mean, that's what this is all about. Whether we are here at the Voice Den, whether we are at Voice Lunch, whether we are part of the Open Voice Network, it's all about the people that make up those organizations, those communities. So so it's such a great question. Thank you so much for coming on, Andy.
Thank you.
All right, I think we'll have enough time for probably one more question. And I'm going to bring up Shyamala and Leslie for this one. So I'm going to say goodbye to John and Andy and to Karol for now. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And we're going to bring up, oh, sorry. Yes, that's what I was going to say. I'm going to bring up Rich, Echo Dad. All right. So I'm going to invite you up, and we will bring up a couple of other people to answer your questions. So let's do that here. Okay. This gets trickier and trickier as we go by with more people here to find. All right, so there we've got Leslie, and I want to bring up, yes. All right, Karol, we'll see you later. All right.
Cheers.
Hey there, how are you doing? Echo Dad, love it, love it.
Very
That's
good.
awesome. Fantastic. So you have a question here. Oh, I'm sorry. I made a mistake there. That is my bad. My bad. I looked at the question, and then I looked at that you asked a question that I was reading the wrong person. So my apologies to you there. We wanted to have a tip for Katherine's newsletter. So, but we've got these two people up on screen here. What I'd like to do, I'm sorry, Rich, but what I might do is, I'm trying to think how to sort this out for you. I want to get your question answered. Okay, we might go up a little bit longer if that's okay. I want to ask, Shyamala, I'm going to bring you back up in a bit. Okay, I'm going to bring up Katherine because I want to get Rich's question answered. Okay, my apologies. That was totally my fault. But here we go. So, all right, people, let me bring Katherine back up here. Oh, my apologies. All right, here we go. So the reason I want to bring up Leslie as well is because it's about functions with the assistants. And Rich's question is about functions with things that Katherine can cover in her newsletter. And we'd love to get Leslie's take on this as well with Google. So Rich, I'm gonna run the timer, and I'll let you ask the question.
So yeah, so for those who don't know, I am Echo Dad. I have a YouTube channel where I review skills with my kids, and I try and give as many positive points about voice as I can. So my question is, what things have you kind of put across in your newsletter, Katherine, and that people haven't really taken notice of, that you kind of think every day, like, oh my God, I kind of want to pound this into you so you understand that this is actually a really useful point?
So that's a really good question. It's funny, you know, I'm always so tempted to write about stuff that's like more like intricate or advanced or like really like cool technology. But some of the stuff I actually find to be the most impactful and the most fun are the simplest, you know, easiest, like 101 kind of tips where someone can just like do, like, you know, it's like some of the shortest newsletters. And one of my favorite things is, you know, this is something that I wrote about like last year, which is the sending a hug with Alexa. It's like, this sounds just so like, just, you wrote like a whole newsletter telling people to send a hug, but I love it. And my mom sends me hugs on Alexa all the time. And it's like so silly and it's so nice. And it's just a really like low touch way of just saying to someone, I'm thinking of you. And it's just, I think it's so easy. You just say, send a hug, and you say who you want to send it to. And sometimes just the simplest things can just kind of move the needle, be really nice.
Love it. Love it.
Doesn't have to be groundbreaking. Yeah.
Leslie, what are some of your favorite features from Google that could be included potentially in a future newsletter that Katherine puts out?
Yeah, I was actually thinking about this question a little bit differently, but in the same vein of kind of Richard question for developers at the partner organizations that I work with. It's hard to follow that response from Katherine, but you know, I think I would encourage partners to think more about toothbrush use cases. So use cases that people would use every day or have a reason to use every day. I think that it can be it's sort of attractive to think, again, like if I check my, if I pay a bill, how often do you pay a bill, whether it be a utility bill or a credit card bill? Typically it's on a monthly basis. And so you're not going to get as much, I think it'll be more difficult to get engagement and retention if someone's only using that action once a month. So you asked kind of what would you like people to think about more frequently? And I think if I'm thinking about the developer audience, it's how can you apply what you're putting out into the world into the vein of use cases that people would gravitate toward or have a reason to use, or that actually fulfill a problem that's a more consistent and frequent problem.
Fantastic. Great. Thank you very much for your question. Great answers. And I think we know what's coming up. Well, in one of Katherine's emails. You've already got the hug thing covered. Awesome. Thanks so much for coming on, Rich. I really appreciate that. Good to see you.
Cheers.
All right. So we're going to stop the timer here. I think for the sake of time, I want to respect everybody's time. I am going to stop the questions there. I have a couple of final announcements that I want to make. So first, I'm just going to say thank you to Leslie. Thank you to Katherine. Thank you to Shyamala. Thank you to John. Thank you to Karol for being the Voicefluencers. This wouldn't be anything without the 5 of you being here to answer the questions. So thank you so much for being part of the show.
Thank you.
I'm going to say goodbye to 2 of you for now, and so I can just do a couple of final announcements here. All right, so we'll see you again sometime soon. All right. Wonderful. Okay, so a couple things that we have to take care of. First of all, I want to remind everybody, and I'm going to pull this up right now, that the Voice Den Session 10 is happening February 24th. And so again, of course, it is sponsored by Amazon Alexa and Google Assistant, and you can now save your seat for that. And in that vein, I need to introduce you to the Session 10 Voicefluencers. So have a look at this video. Oh, I was muted there. All right. So that is the lineup for number 10, session number 10. I hope you will join us. And last but not least here, we're at 5:59 here. Last but not least, I want to introduce you to another little surprise feature. Maybe it's not so much of a surprise anymore for some of you that have been paying attention to what's going on social media. So there's this little new app that's a social media platform that is taking the world by storm here. You may have heard of this thing called Clubhouse. And we've got some friends here I know that joined here in the Voice Den because of Clubhouse. And I'm so excited about this platform. And what I want to announce here today is that I'm launching the voiceden.club. and the application has been put into Clubhouse. It is too early to actually yet have the club set up, but it is in the process of being set up. In the meantime, we are holding rooms, and so that you know, we're having a room every Wednesday, the Voice Den Club, at 5 p.m. Pacific. So that is exactly at this time when the Voice Den is on the off weeks. So whenever this live show is not happening here, you can find us on Clubhouse at the Voice Den Club. And on days when we do have the Voice Den live, then we're going to be having an after party on Clubhouse where everybody can chat. And so as soon as we're done here, I'm going to jump onto Clubhouse. I invite all of you to come over and meet there. The direct link is thevoiceden.club, and it will take you directly there. Now, the reason I asked that question right at the beginning, unfortunately, I'm going to pull up the poll results here again. So 57% had an iOS device and 40% had an Android. Unfortunately, there's not much I can do about this, but Clubhouse is still technically in beta, and it's only available on iOS. So I am terribly, terribly sorry if you do not have an iOS. They are holding town hall meetings, and they say that they will be coming to Android soon. When that is, I don't know. But for those of you, and unfortunately, there's just not much I can do about that. But for those of you that are here that have an iOS device, please join us over at thevoiceden.club. And you will be able to go straight there. And I'll just put it in right here. There is the link. Okay, so with that being said, I want to thank everybody one more time for coming. From the bottom of my heart, I want to thank the sponsors. Again, Amazon Alexa, Google Assistant. This wouldn't be possible without both of those incredible companies that are supporting this show for the entire year. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm going to sign off. I'm going to play the closing credits. I hope that you will join us for session 10. And if you are able, come on over to Clubhouse. We will have a little bit of an open discussion and have some fun there. Just continue the party. And I will see you next time.